Solomon is dead and his son loses half the kingdom before the week is out. Today we watch the nation that David and Solomon spent 2 lifetimes building come apart in a single meeting. And then we watch the man who walks away with the north invent a whole religion to make sure the split can never heal.
I'm following him. No split level love in a single-minded life. No two-time heart with the Lord of life. Let the Lord be God.
Welcome to Come Listen With Me. My name is Ricky Black, aka Elder Eleazar, and today is our Monday, June 29th reading of 1 Kings chapter 12 in our ongoing 2026 Come Follow Me study of the Old Testament. Now, before we begin, let's just take a moment to acknowledge our Father in heaven and his Son, Jesus Christ, whom he sent, and give our appreciation and thanks. Because we are grateful for a record that's honest enough to show us how a kingdom falls, so that we might learn before we repeat it. And as we read today about counsel taken and counsel refused, let's ask for the humility to hear wisdom and the honesty to choose the true things over the convenient one. And let's open the book. All right, so Solomon's kingdom is at its full height, and watch how fast it comes down. See, Solomon has passed away. He's gone. And his son, Rehoboam, goes north to Shechem to be made king. Now, that detail already tells you something important. See, he has to go to them. The northern tribes are not simply handing him a crown. They want terms first. And their terms, they're actually really reasonable. See, they say, your father made our load heavy, they say. Lighten it and we will serve you. And Rehoboam asks for 3 days to consider. And in those 3 days, he walks into 2 different rooms and gets 2 completely different answers. First one is the old men, the ones who actually stood in the room when Solomon governed. And we read about that here in chapter 12, beginning in verses 6 through 8. And King Rehoboam consulted with the old men that stood before Solomon his father while they yet lived, and said, How do ye advise that I may answer this people? And they spake unto him, saying, If thou wilt be a servant unto this people this day, and will serve them, and answer them, and speak good words to them, then they will be thy servants forever. But he forsook the counsel of the old men, which they had given him, and consulted with the young men that were grown up with him, which stood before him. So did you hear what the elders told him? Be servants to this people today, and they will be your servants forever. This is the whole theory of good leadership in one sentence, and it runs exactly opposite to what a prideful young king wants to hear. You want them to serve you, right? Then serve them first. That's not what they want to hear. See, authority that bends towards people it governs, it earns loyalty that lasts a lifetime, but he can't see it yet. And the text says that Rehoboam forsook it. Now that word, forsook, it's the same word Scripture uses for abandoning the Lord himself. He had the distilled wisdom of the men who ran the most prosperous kingdom Israel ever knew. And he set it down and went looking for a second opinion, one that he'd like better, one that he would prefer to hear. Now the young men he turns to, well, he grew up with them, right? His own generation, men who have never had to govern anything. And their advice is really about pride and ego, not policy. You know, it's kind of like school children taunting on the playground, right? Tell them your little finger is thicker than your father's waist, they say. Then tell them your father beat them with whips and you will beat them with scorpions. Now, a scorpion here, it's not the desert insect with a stinger, right? It's actually a barbed whip, and it has lashes fitted with these metal thorns that kind of tear at your skin when you get lashed. It's a terrifying instrument of torture. So the young men, they're really not solving the kingdom's problem. They're coaching Rehoboam to win the meeting, to look strong, to make sure that no one ever thinks the new king can be pushed around, right? It's all about peacocking and posture. And here is the part that we really need to pay attention to. See, both rooms answered the question that he asked. The elders answered the people's actual request, and the young men answered the fear that, threatened their pride. And he chose the one that flattered the fear. That is almost always how bad counsel wins. It does not arrive looking silly and foolish and without wisdom or years of experience. It really doesn't. It arrives sounding confident, looking like strength, right? Lots of bolster and posturing. So the people come back on the third day, and Rehoboam gives them the scorpion answer. I mean, word for word, he repeats it. In the north, they don't riot. They do something even colder than rioting, right? They just simply leave. See that here in verse 16. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. Yeah, what portion have we in David, they say. They're dissolving the union, and they reach all the way back past Solomon, past David, himself, to call him the only the son of Jesse, as though the whole dynasty actually was just like a temporary arrangement, and they can just abandon now freely. And they say that, right? 2 tenths, O Israel, go home, right? The United Kingdom David built and Solomon crowned with a temple, it's over, it's finished. And it ended not on a battlefield, but in a negotiation that one man refused to take seriously. Took it like a petulant child who had his ego bruised. Now, the narrator has already told us something that we don't want to rush past, though. Let's pay attention, right? So back in verse 15, he says that the king did not listen because the turn of events was from the Lord, right, to fulfill the word he had spoken against Solomon. So was this God's doing or Rehoboam's folly? Well, the text tells us it's actually both. See, God decreed judgment on Solomon's house for the idolatry of his old age, and Rehoboam, fully free and fully responsible, walked straight into the role he was meant to play. So the decree did not turn him into a fool. His own pride did. And that's how providence usually runs in Scripture, right? God's purpose and a man's free choice moving down the very same channel, and the man still answerable for the choice he made. If God had been continued the protections of the kingdom to Solomon, if Solomon hadn't made the problems that he had, then likely God could have intervened to give more wisdom and more counsel, right, to have helped the young man out. All he had to simply do in this case was remove his presence and let nature take its course. Because remember, everything about Israel is not about the people, right? None of the people could have actually made any of it happen. It was always God. So once he withdraws his power and authority in his direction, everything is just naturally going to fall apart. So now the scene shifts to the north, right? To Jeroboam, the man who just inherited 10 tribes. And I mean, he should be celebrating, right? He's king in the north. Anyway, but instead he's actually afraid, right? So if we listen closely what he's afraid of, because it is a bit of an engine that's going to, drive everything that falls. And we're going to read about that here in verses 26 through 30. And Jeroboam said in his heart, Now shall the kingdom return to the house of David. In this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem. Then shall the heart of his people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam, king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam, king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel, and made 2 calves of gold, and said unto them, It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set the one in Bethel, and the other put he in Dan. And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan. So, let's follow his logic here, because it seems airtight, right? Particularly from a secular reasoning, even if it's religious and spiritual poison, right? The temple, it's in Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem sits in the south, and it's in Rehoboam's territory. And he says, if my people keep going down there 3 times a year to worship the Lord, well, their hearts, they're reattached to the house of David, and sooner or later they're going to kill me and they're going to go back to him. And he's really not wrong about the pole of worship. He understands exactly how much the temple shapes people's loyalty. I mean, it still does today as much as it did back then. It is that important. So he solves a political problem with a religious counterfeit. 2 golden calves. One at Bethel, that's near the southern border, and one at Dan, that's in the far north. And he says that way nobody has to travel that far. It's very convenient. And that's here's the pitch of it, right? It says, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Now notice he does not say that the Lord is false. He says the true worship is inconvenient. Here's something that's closer, it's easier, we could simply call it the same God, saying, behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Now, if that line sounds familiar, it really, really should, right? It is almost word for word what Aaron said at the foot of Sinai when he made the first golden calf. So Jeroboam is quoting the worst moment in Israel's history, and he's selling it as a positive national policy. And that's where the opening chapter of the week leaves us, and where the rest of the week is going to begin. Because everything that rots in the northern kingdom over the next several chapters, it grows straight out of this one decision. And from here on, the narrator has a phrase that he repeats like a verdict, just over the king after king after king. They walked in the way of Jeroboam, who made Israel to sin. This is the way of Jeroboam. So it's not a dramatic public rejection of God. In fact, most falling away in faith, most apostasy isn't, right? It's a substitute that feels reasonable at the time. It's worship that's made convenient. See, the real thing declared too much trouble, too much effort. And then a manageable version set up closer to home with God's name still stamped on it. So watch for that pattern all week, because it is, like I said, it's that quiet machinery that's driving the whole decline. And then here's a challenge, right? Be willing to turn it on yourself. I mean, gently, but because it is the most ordinary temptation there is, right? Not abandoning God, not abandoning your faith in what you believe. Just, trimming it down to whatever is convenient and keeping all the labels still the same. Now, Rehoboam lost the kingdom by needing to look strong in one meeting. Jeroboam lost it for good by making God easy. Like 2 men, one divided heart between them, and the whole north just walks into darkness behind them. Okay. So here's what I would have you watch for as you read. So find the moment the convenient substitute gets introduced, and notice how reasonable it sounds in the mouth of the man who's selling it. And drop a comment, like where else in Scripture, even just in life, or in your community, in the world around you, right? Where have you seen this real thing called too much trouble and the cheaper version offered in its place? So bring the verses and the real life examples if you have one. This is the conversation I'd love to have all week. I think there's a lot here, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to comment on it. Now, tomorrow we pick up the pace. It's going to be 4 chapters. I know it's a big one. But it's 13 through 16. And this really is the section that is the long slide of the Northern Kings. It's a deadly lesson about a prophet who listens to the wrong voice and the arrival of the worst king yet. And don't forget the song of the week. Follow him. It's linked below. It's on YouTube and everywhere you stream. But the opening verse is actually built on exactly what we read today, right? The split crown, Jeroboam's calf of cheap gold. So give it a listen, because like I said, it's written to pair with your study this week, to keep it live and present in your mind and on the tip of your tongue. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I will see you back here tomorrow. And until then, as always, I appreciate you all, and thank you for choosing to spend some of your precious time to come listen with me.
Let the rain come down.